Now, it's been a bit of a quiet year for old Greta Thunberg, hasn't it? I mean, we haven't seen too much of her. Funnily enough, the last time we saw her, I think, on these shores was down in Bristol when there was that big climate change rally that they held in, funnily enough, the place called, I think, College Green, which is where some of the punch-ups took place last night between the anarchists and the police. We're going to talk to Emma Webb now, a commentator, because apparently over in Winchester University, there's going to be a life-size sculpture of Greta Thunberg because it's got £24,000 to pay in order to do it. But a lot of residents are not too happy about it because they're saying, well, why are we doing a life-size sculpture of this woman who's got pretty much nothing to do with Winchester and pretty much nothing to do with anything other than climate change? Emma, what is going on? Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Yeah, local residents have quite rightly pointed out that Greta Thunberg has very little to do with Winchester. Statues are normally put up to sort of furnish the public space in a way that makes it feel homely for the residents and has ties to the particular area. And some local residents have said that they were hoping or would have preferred for a big issue seller whose name is Kev Collick to have been given a statue. And this gentleman was, he's become a sort of icon in Winchester. And he was put into care as a child, was obviously homeless, selling the big issue, is no longer homeless, and is known for dressing up as a Christmas tree and raising money for children in need. So this guy's obviously more than just a little bit of a local hero and deserves a statue, I think, in my opinion. And it would give people, I think, in the local area, but also, you know, anyone visiting the area, a sense that anyone in any situation, however terrible, can aspire to become somebody that is so sort of loved in the local area that they're given a statue. Whereas someone like Greta Thunberg, if we look at the behaviour of Extinction Rebellion, not just in the last couple of days involving themselves in the protests, but also before, you know, being quite typical on various protests that they commit all sorts of criminal damage. I think that if we're going to start talking about role models who deserve statues in a local area in Winchester, it should be given to Kev Collick, not to a Swedish climate activist.
Well, quite. I mean, this is the funny thing about the way we have now sort of gone in society, that Winchester University's only reason, apparently, well, as far as they've told the artist Christine Charlesworth, is that they like to think of themselves as a very green organisation. Well, so what? I mean, what's that got to do with Winchester? And what's it got to do with the price of fish, quite frankly?
Yeah, it's a change in our attitudes towards, when I say our attitudes, not ours, not mine and yours, Mike, but in some people's attitudes towards statues in the public space. We've seen a lot of statues being commissioned, put up recently that are what you would call the everyman. They're not particularly a statue of anything. They're just a sort of timeless blob that have no connection to the area and no connection to place. And one of the things that statues are supposed to do is to try and, you know, make a place feel like it's somewhere rather than being abstract street art. And as we've seen with the people who would like to tear down our statues, there are some activists who would like the public space to conform to their particular ideology that is popular right now. And I think that's what we're seeing with Greta Thunberg. And obviously the university are probably right in thinking that young people at the university, at least some of them, will see Greta Thunberg as being a role model. And we can ask whether or not it's a good idea for them to raise her up as a role model. I'm sure there are different views about that. But it is part of this change, I think, in the way that we consider how our public space should be constructed, what sorts of statues we should have. And, you know, I'm always advocating for more statues rather than less. But I think having a statue of someone like this big issue seller would be far more appropriate for Winchester and make it feel far more homely for residents and for anybody passing through the university there to tie them to the local area, rather than somebody who is an activist and might be popular amongst some young people, but really doesn't have any connection to the local area.
And that's the problem at the moment, isn't it? Because there seems to be far more of a hunger to take statues down rather than to actually put them up. And we've had that sort of fifth plinth in Trafalgar Square for a long time, which is occasionally occupied. I don't think they've actually got a permanent statue there yet. And they sort of change it from season to season. But, you know, there's a general view, is there not, Emma, out there, that statues are a bad thing, apparently, because they represent our history, of which we should be ashamed.
Yeah, statues, I think, generally have come under attack, but obviously not all statues. So some people have, as you mentioned, the plinth in Trafalgar Square, which now has a giant ice cream cone with a fly drone stuck on it that constantly surveys the other statues in Trafalgar Square. It's not an attack on all statues. It's an attack on statues that are associated with British culture, British heritage. It's part of the same phenomenon of attacking the songs like Rule Britannia, or songs that are sung at the proms. It's more of an attack on things that are associated with being English, particularly, or British more broadly, and anything from a certain period of British history, rather than just anti-statue in general.
Yes.
Which is why people would get excited potentially about a statue of Greta Thunberg, or even the activist who famously stood on Colston's plinth with her fist in the air at the Black Lives Matter protests after the statue had been toppled. So what they want to do, it seems, is to topple the statues that are associated with our past, and then to replace them with these new activists that, as we saw in the last couple of days, have associated themselves with protests that are not exactly peaceful, sometimes break the law. And as Extinction Rebellion have done, they graffitied my office building and poured red paint like blood all over the step. So
Why?
I'm not sure that
I mean, why
she's
did they
a better
target
role model than
why
a particular general.
Why did they target your
history.
building?
Well, I'm not sure, actually. I'm guessing they got the wrong building. They don't particularly do their research, it seems, not only on climate change, but also on the locations that they go for.
I'm happy to tell you there's a new front line out there in the culture wars, because I don't know if you saw this story today as well. Dinah Bourne, one of the Mayor of London's design advocates, whatever they are, has apparently declared that she's not keen on Georgian buildings, and she's certainly not keen on certain designs of buildings, because there's a home that's been built in the style of an 18th century building. She's described it as politically troubling, because of course it harkens back to a time when Britannia ruled the waves, if you like. So they're now having to go. I mean, it's bad news for Royal Crescent in Bath, I would have thought. You have to knock it all down.
Well, we did say that this was going to happen. I hate to say I told you so, but when they started going for the statues, there were plenty of people who said, well, at some point they're going to go for the entirety of Greenwich, because any statues or architecture associated with pretty much from the 15th century until now, these people will see as problematic. So they're actually going for anything that is beautiful. They're going. We've spoken about this before. The way that they call it repudiation inflation. They start by going for slave traders, and they end up going for Beethoven. Well, they start going for statues, and then they'll end up going for beautiful architecture, and pretty much anything that doesn't accord with their awful far left dystopian worldview.
It's unbelievable. It really is. Emma, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. It's depressing, isn't it, that there are these people out there who actually think that they are the arbiters of what we should be looking at, of what we should be seeing, of what we should be thinking about, of the kind of buildings we should be living in. I mean, think about it for a minute, and think about what it is that these people want you to do. They want you to agree with them about everything. They want you to live your life like they think you should live it. They want you to do as you are told. They want you to only talk about certain things. This is not Britain, ladies and gentlemen. This is, as Emma Webb says, some kind of bizarre dystopian nonsense. And I'm not having it. I'm not buying it. And I'm not doing it.